you don't look at God and look at the resurrection as the sign that you have all things that pertain to life and godliness, what will happen is your flesh will start being compelled to enlist itself to bring you peace, right? You say, I lack. Now, if I can get what I say I lack, that will give me peace, right? But the flesh can't give you peace, nor can the world give you peace. And if we look at extreme examples to see what this looked like, Hitler enlisted his flesh to give himself peace. Yeah. What did it produce? Did it produce life? No. ISIS is enlisting their flesh to bring peace, not just to themselves, but to the whole world.
And I get back to what was Jesus' greatest temptation? What was his biggest temptation? Was to enlist his ability to bring himself alive.
Yeah.
You know, you ask most Christians, it's like, what was Jesus' greatest temptation? And they have no clue.
And that's that.
No clue, because one is spiritual and one is carnal.
One
is feeding from the tree of life, the knowledge of good and evil, and one is feeding from the spirit.
And that's one of the reasons why we started the church. Because the more I talk to Christians, the more I realized none of us even know what happened and what the real deal is and what the real problem is. We'd all been raised to believe in a historical fact, but then all the reasons why the historical fact happened are all perverted. That strips the power of what happened. Right?
I was just thinking of what Thomas had said about the fact that we are innocent of the accusation that we lack. I mean, right now that resonates, but if you'd said that 4 years ago, it would have gone right. I would have shook my head because it sounded right, but I would have no context to have made that real in my life.
Yeah. Listen, one of the greatest messages I ever preached that's got one of the fewest views is seeing justification through the eyes of Jesus. The church doesn't consider that Jesus also had to be justified. Now that just throws a monkey wrench into our whole idea of what justification is. Because Jesus, who had a sinless life, also had to be justified. Yeah. Now that's supposed to define justification. Right? And I love that message. I encourage everybody to go back and listen to that message. But justified is not just as if I never sinned. That has nothing to do with it. That perverts the whole thing. That's what the serpent wants us to think. But we look at what happened to Jesus on the cross. It's the same thing that happened to Eve. He took on the body of death. And then what did the serpent come and say? You lack. He tempted him to enlist his ability. How did he tempt him to enlist his ability? By telling him he lacked. If you are the Son, where is your God now? Look at you. I'm going to talk about that today. God with us, Goliath, and what that looks like. The real encounter between David and Goliath happened at the cross. That's the real manifestation of David and Goliath. The one before was just talking about David and Goliath. Cool. That's the real encounter between David and Goliath. That's where the real Goliath was conquered, right? Goliath in the Old Testament is just a type and a shadow of what the real Goliath was. David in the Old Testament is just a type and a shadow of Jesus. It's just a type and a shadow of God with us, right? And that stuff's powerful. It'll cause your flesh to go to rest. I love what John Fazio posted about Hebrews. I shared it on my page. You guys should go back and read it. It says that the reason that it says when Jesus was suffering and he was in death and he was hanging on the cross, it says that he cried out to God, and in that he feared, he was saved.
And what?
In that he feared, it says he was saved. Right? What does it mean to fear? Right? We think to fear means to be afraid of someone. That's not what it's saying there. What it's saying there is that Jesus was awestruck by the beauty of God as Father, and through the revelation of God as Father, it put his flesh to rest on the cross, and he didn't enlist his own ability when he was confronted with the word that he wasn't the Son, but he cried out, Father.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what it means to fear. You can't fear because you want to. It's not something you can bring about yourself. It's something that happens to you when you become awestruck. You know what happens when you're awestruck? You stand still. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. So God comes and reveals himself as Abba. And when you can see God as Abba, you become awestruck.
Yeah.
And everything stops. Time stands still. And you're just like, And your flesh goes to rest. Rest becomes born in your soul from the revelation of God as Abba and all that that implies. Right? And that's why Jesus was saved. And not just like raised from the dead saved, he was saved from the effect that the death of the cross was trying to have on his soul.
Yes.
Guys, we've all experienced the death that Jesus experienced on the cross in this world at one time or another in our life. We've all felt that same thing in our soul. We can't just say, oh, that's just what Jesus went.
You said it one time or another. It seems like it's daily. I mean, for me.
Well,
I mean, imagine for you guys too. I mean,
I didn't want to put that on anybody. I didn't want to say that for anybody else, but yeah, for a lot of people it is daily.
Right.
It's
Yes.
true. You can be awestruck multiple times.
And there is the revelation of dying daily.
Yeah.
I don't despise people for saying this because I did this 15 years ago. We want to take everything we were taught under religion and we don't want to explain it the right way. We want to say we don't have to do that. No. Listen, I die daily to the effect of death in my life.
Yeah.
Every day I find myself having fellowship with the fact that I died with Christ to death. That it wasn't just Christ that died to death on the cross. That was me.
Yeah.
If you can't see that that's you, then the power of the gospel is being stripped. It isn't that Jesus died for us. He did die for us, but if you don't add in he died as us, you got a big problem.
Yeah.
You got a big problem. He died as us for us.
Coda.
You got to see that's me.
Yeah.
And you can, and the reality is, because when I got into grace first, like Galatians 2:20, where it says, "I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I live, but Christ lives in me." It obviously that was a bad thing, because like, no, Jesus died for me, which he did, but it's like this dying daily is like, it's like, no, that's wrong. I didn't die. No, Jesus did it all for me. But the reality is, yeah, you die daily. You die daily, because you realize you become less and less aware of it, that you can't give yourself life.
That's right.
Right.
You can't, you know, when it says enter the kingdom as a child, enter the kingdom as a child. A child isn't thinking around, how can I give myself life?
Every
Where
day
does
I
my
die.
life come from?